Did you know 1 can of Coke contains 9 teaspoons of sugar? And approximately 80% of all foods contain added sugars. Some people eat as many as 40 teaspoons of sugar every day, which is more than 5 times the recommended daily allowance. Carlisle and Cumbria have higher than average incidences of diabetes, as well as huge problems with oral health, and there are a large number of rising cases of obesity that are affecting adults and children.
Scary, isn't it? Don't panic though. If you're smart,
Sugar smart.
we will show you how reducing the amount of sugar you consume every day will have a good effect on your health and mental stability through smart swaps and having a good understanding of the foods that will help your body rather than hinder it.
But first, a quick history of sugar.
Sugar was first grown in New Guinea in 8000 BC and around 2000 years later made its way to India by ship. In 300 BC, Europe first came into contact with sugar when Alexander the Great's troops brought back mysterious honey powder from India. Prior to the 1800s, sugar was a luxury item which only the very wealthy could afford and enjoy. During the 18th century, the spreading of sugar plantations around the world made sugar a very popular food item, which made it less expensive and more accessible. By the 19th century, sugar was now considered to be a necessary food ingredient and was included in the normal diet. By the 20th century, sugar was now a food item regularly used by everyone. In 2017, currently, there are 56 types of processed sugars. People are eating as many as 40 teaspoons of sugar a day, and eating too much sugar can cause some serious diseases such as type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and even some cancers.
To find out more information about type 2 diabetes, we spoke to Dr. Westgate, who is a diabetes specialist.
There are 2 main types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 diabetes occurs when the pancreas stops working, so the body doesn't produce any insulin. And type 2 diabetes is caused by the body's inability to respond to insulin. Type 2 diabetes is often described as sort of a rusty lock syndrome, so the insulin is there, but it can't do its job properly. About 6% of the population have type 2 diabetes, and as a society, we're generally less active than we used to be, and we're generally bigger than we used to be.
Yeah.
And we've seen, in the UK, we've seen the prevalence of diabetes rise from about, or type 2 diabetes rise from about 2% 20 years ago to about 6% where it is now. So we're seeing significant rise in the numbers of people developing type 2 diabetes. Sugar is an important part of our sort of normal diet, and lots of those sugars are bound up in, say, fruit and vegetables, so that the sort of 5 portions of fruit and vegetables a day message, and some of those sugars are bound up in more complex carbohydrates, so that's things like sort of bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, those sorts of things. Now, diet needs to be in balance and needs to deliver the amount of energy that we need to live, and everyone's got different energy requirements. There are some sugars though which are sort of surplus to requirements and not bound up with other nutrients, and those sugars are typically called free sugars, and those are the sorts of sugars that we'd find in processed food or in fizzy drinks or in confectionery and chocolate bars and those sorts of things. And those sorts of sugars aren't really part of a healthy sort of balanced diet, but they're everywhere. You know, they're in our society, they're available to us. So increased sugar in the diet, and particularly free sugars in the diet, help to or increase the risk of obesity, so people getting bigger. And obesity is associated with a number of health risks, and in particular things like type 2 diabetes, which has its own repercussions.
Sugar can also have a damaging effect on your dental hygiene. We spoke to some dental students from the University of Central Lancashire who gave us a deeper insight.
What are the effects of sugar on kids?
I like to think of a simple equation, and it's plaque plus sugar equals decay. Decay is a bacterial disease, and it's the most prevalent disease in the whole world, and it is totally preventable. And as far as children's concerned, if they have disease when they're really young, it impacts on their development in speech, eating. As far as dental disease is concerned, it's not the amount of sugar, it's the frequency. So we recommend that you keep sugar to a mealtime, maybe one other time, and definitely not after tea, and definitely not around bedtime.
So don't cut it out completely?
No, I think that's impossible.
What is the worst case that you've seen?
Well, there's been a few. Obviously, specifically seeing adults is quite difficult because quite a lot of them maybe haven't visited the dentist for a long time. But actually, the worst case that I saw was really hard hitting for me when I actually went to a general anaesthetic session, and I saw a mother have to bring in her 2-year-old child. So he had none of his adult teeth yet; they were all baby teeth. And we were there when this child was put. First had the gas mask on his face to put him to sleep, and then had that IV sedation. So he's obviously completely out, but the mother was very, very upset about the situation. And unfortunately, I think he got about maybe 10 of his baby teeth taken out in that case. And he's then not going to have any adult teeth until he's about 6. And unfortunately, the case was that the mother thought she was doing the right thing by feeding the child milk, but she was feeding him chocolate milk. So she thought she was doing a good thing, or plain milk, great, or milk, great, but actually it was chocolate milk. And so every time he was having a sip, he was having sugar, which was just contributing to this awful decay, and a lot of decay in his mouth.
Considering dental decay across the life course, what are the things to consider for the older population?
So when we tend to talk a lot about kids and the problem with kids' teeth, we do tend to forget, not us particularly, but in general public, that the older you get, the less saliva you produce. Saliva has a really protective function with teeth, and if you have less saliva, they're more at risk. And you're having quite a heavy diet, so eating quite frequently, because you eat small bits and snack throughout the day. We term it in dentistry as the biscuit diet, and it's quite a common one you see where older people come in and they've got quite a few holes cropping up when they didn't realise anything they were doing was wrong.
Don't forget, plaque plus sugar equals decay. And to the older generation, stay away from that biscuit tin. Now, a more personal story from someone who overcame the damaging effects of sugar.
My name's John Sherrington, and I'm here to talk today really about the impact of sugar. Quite a few years ago, I got injured. I got quite a nasty knee injury, and like most people, kept eating the same way as I had before, eating, drinking. Nothing out of the ordinary. I wasn't into eating pizza, takeaways 5, 6, 7 nights a week. Maybe had a few too many chocolate bars, a couple of cakes, odd cans of Coke, that sort of thing. And my weight started to increase. I'd always been quite athletic and didn't really notice over the short period. As time went on, got bigger and bigger, and went to the doctors. Found out that I had type 2 diabetes. The height of me weighing myself on the scales, which wasn't my biggest point, I got to 19 stone 10. I didn't want to see 20 stone on the scales, so I just stopped going on them. When I used to go to the doctors, I wouldn't let them weigh me. But I would hazard a guess I got to nearly 22 stone. I wasn't happy with this. I was ill, I was tired, very sluggish, no motivation to do things, and life was a bit of a drag. Woke up one day and kind of thought, this isn't happening anymore. It's my life, it's my body, and I'm going to take control of it. Looked at the basics, that if I didn't put the sugar into my body, I wouldn't need the medication to manage that. Flip side was that I had more energy, which meant then I could go out and start doing exercise. I started CrossFit, joined CrossFit Hawkeye, got very, very into it, started training 6, 7 times a week. Speaking to the guys there, getting more guidance on nutrition, eating plenty of fruit, plenty of vegetables, plenty of lean meats, and just generally looking after myself. Here we are now, 6 years further on, and I eat healthily. I don't really eat chocolate, don't really eat cakes. They're still there as a treat. Don't go anywhere near any fizzy drinks that have got sugar in them. Yeah, if I want a glass of pop or something like that, it's going to be a Diet Coke. So really, my story is one that anyone can pick up. I took control of my life and sorted it out. And if you want to take control of your life, I'm sure you can sort it out too. Eat well, move about, and things will improve for you. And try and make small changes that are sustainable over time. Make one step this week, next week make another step, and in 3 or 4 months you'll have made massive progress.
We then spoke to Claire Almond, who has a background in nutrition, who gave us information about Smart Swaps.
So it is quite alarming because we don't know how much sugar is added into our foods from the manufacturers until we actually are able to read the labels. And then obviously If you don't understand the labels, then it's even more difficult.
So we've heard a lot about added sugars. What is actually the difference between added sugars and natural sugars?
So the sugars that we say are added is from the manufacturers, yourselves, if you want it in your cup of tea or anything like that. Natural sugars is in your fruit, milk, and it also has fibre in it, so it helps you digest it better.
So the natural sugars are actually good for you?
Yes. With the added sugars you can't break it down, so it then is stored as fat. So natural sugar is much healthier for you.
So looking at some of the products we've got here, how many grams of sugar would be in this sauce?
Well, I can actually show you with the app that we have that you can download on your phone. So if I take that and then I scan it, and as you can see here, there's 38.5 grams of total sugar. So obviously that is over your recommended daily allowance, which is 30 grams.
Wow, okay.
So it is over.
So what about one of these low-fat yogurts? How many grams of sugar would be in
So
one
as
of
you can
these?
see here, reading the label, there is 15 grams of sugar in this yogurt. And I can actually show you here that this is 15 grams of sugar.
Wow, so all of that sugar was in this one yogurt pot.
So it's a lot of sugar. It's a lot of sugar. So for an alternative from that high sugar yogurt, you could have a plain yogurt and then add your fruit into it yourself, so such as strawberries, raspberries, bananas, because they have natural sugars and fibre in them.
So, in summary, being aware of the amount of hidden sugars in your food and drink that you consume can make a huge difference to your overall health.
Just moderating your intake of refined sugars with a balance of natural sugars is important for a healthy diet.
So remember, be sugar smart.